think this video is going to be a lot longer than I intended, assuming it's still going, because I don't even know. My Monstera Deliciosa, I actually just repotted it not even a month ago, and there are already roots popping out of the bottom. Normally I don't like to repot so quickly, but I think this guy can take it. So earlier I put on my Instagram if you guys would rather hear about credit or how to buy a house when you have bad credit, you know, ideas and tips and tricks. Last I checked, the low credit was winning, so that's what I think we're gonna end up doing. I've actually been talking to a lot of my friends recently about credit. I don't know, it's just one of those things that they don't necessarily teach you. Let's see. First, I'm going to pull this guy out and we'll see what's happening. So over on the side, I have a big thing of soil. All right, so trying to keep clean. But as you can see, there are roots all over the place. It actually grew through the liner I put down. There we go. I'm gonna try to loosen this poor root-bound sole. Alright, so back to credit. When you're buying a house, especially in the Pacific Northwest, you're ultimately gonna need to borrow money, which is not a bad thing. The issue is when you're borrowing money from someone, you need to not prove to them, but it's a risk that they're taking, and so you need to kind of show them that you can pay it off and that you are a responsible person, and ultimately that the risk will be worth it. I've learned a lot about credit in the past year, and a lot, especially when working with first-time home buyers, because a lot of them think that they can't buy a house because of their credit, or that their credit, you know, is wrong. And it's been interesting the things that they don't, at least that I was never told about credit until I started doing this. First thing I would say is to actually know your credit score. There are different resources you can use. You need to kind of know where you're at with it. And let's say you pay off at the end of every month, but for some reason your credit doesn't seem to reflect that. I've had a lot of friends talk to me about this, and something that I tell them is to keep what you owe under 30% of your credit limit, even if you pay it off at the end of the month. Still pay it off at the end of the month, but you need to keep it under 30%, because whoever is pulling your credit and sending it to the bureau, they don't necessarily pull it when you have paid off at the end of the month. They can do it at random. A lot of the time they won't even tell you in your agreement. So what you do is you just always keep it under 30%. Then you ultimately know that whenever they're pulling it, that it's always going to be under that. Another thing you can do is increase your limit. And I know that that can kind of sound counterintuitive, but think of it this way. You have a $2,000 limit on your credit card, and you owe $1,000 on it. Or, yeah, let's just go with 1,000 because that's what I said. So that's 50% of your limit. If you increase to 5,000 and you still owe that 1,000, 1,000 is a lot less of 5,000 than it is of 2,000. So then it's going to look like you're more responsible and that you aren't using as much of your credit every month. Let's see what else. Right now I'm really just trying to loosen the root ball because this guy, the first time I repotted him, was very root bound, and he still is. Another thing is you have to be patient. There are a lot of ways to fix your credit, and they work. You just have to be patient with it. If you have maybe just a couple times where you were late on your payments, you can actually call in and ask for it to be removed. And it doesn't always work, but it's something to consider, especially if it really is just the occasional time. Another thing is you can still buy a home with bad credit. Every situation is different. I believe for an FHA loan, it's around $580 that you need to qualify for that. So another thing that I have been told a lot is to always try to keep what you owe under 30%. And that is something that, you know, seems like an arbitrary number, but it's not. It's actually a very good number to keep your credit under. A lot of the time it's better to have multiple credit cards than just one. So when you're building your credit, think about that, and you can start young as well. There's a lot of student credit cards that you can use. Just don't get too many all at once. I had a professor in college who would sit and talk about how he was still paying off his credit card debt because when he was 18, you go to college and you have all those vendors trying to get you to sign up, and he went for it. So be smart when you're picking out a credit card and how many to have. So anyways, I think that's enough about credit. And what I'm actually trying to do is see if I can kind of actually separate this. This is actually 4 plants all put into one, and you'll find that most plants are like this, where there's different units, but it's ultimately all put together into one plant. So I'm trying to take one out actually, maybe even 2. This plant is one of my favorites actually. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I do. Whew. It is really hardy, I've found, even though it really got trendy, I believe, a couple years ago. I didn't get one until this past year. I found a small one at a nursery in Issaquah, and I was there for work, and I just stopped by the nursery on my way home, and it was just a really healthy plant. And I like to get my plants kind of smaller and young because I just feel like I personally have more control of them and kind of raise them how I want to, I guess. So I took the leap and I got it, and I have loved it. It's really simple. Like, I give it some pretty good indirect light or some direct east light, so just like the morning. Gets a few hours there sometimes, and seems really happy with that. Ooh. What I really like is it kind of tells you when it needs to be watered. When it needs to be watered, you can see right now how the leaves curl down. That's what my plant does when it needs to be watered. All plants are different though. All right. This is just a mass of roots, which is good. Don't get me wrong. It's really, really good. I almost think I'm gonna need a knife to separate it. I do think I want to separate it. Okay. So I actually, the pot that I'm putting it in, the bigger one that I got is, I think it's like 1.5 gallons. And it came from, I don't even know what this is. By pack. Sometimes you can use like sour cream containers, just drill some holes, and that can be like a planter, and then you just stick it in a cute decorative pot. And it's the best thing ever. Highly recommend. I just about got him. Is not how I intended this video would go. There we go. That's one. Ooh, I'm excited about that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try for another. Why not? I think I'm just gonna snip right there. That's 2. Hopefully that will be sufficient. Alright, so a lot of this is probably now roots that are going to die, but that's fine. So I have this container about halfway full. Let's see. That'll probably be good enough. So I'm going to dig kind of a well in it and spread the roots because they really need it. I am going to move these aside. A lot of plants you can actually be a lot more rough with than you think. This is just some cactus soil. I'm going to add a little bit too around the root area, just because no plant likes to sit in wet soil. So now I'm just filling in the sides, tucking the roots under. I'm going to have to do a lot of soil to support it. These are actually very top heavy plants. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to set them down, tap down the soil, and then I'm going to go back again and make sure that he is supported by the soil. So there's that.